Okay, great. We've established a quorum. Um, I think the minutes from the previous meeting were sent out. Has everybody had time to review them? If so, I would entertain a motion to approve them as sent out. No. Okay, we have a motion to approve them as they were sent out to the directors. Second there in the back. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to serve the ABBA for the last year. I also want to thank you for the officers that you've given me to work with for the last year. Both of these guys were very willing and communicated with me well, and were always willing to do extra work when I asked them to do so. I want to especially thank Kelvin and Edie. After they finished their normal duties, they put in my estimation, hundreds of hours of work organizing and getting it ready for this great celebration. And it's very much appreciated. Our staff, you can't thank them enough. They're smart, always full of smiles, loyal, and just really a pleasure to work with. They're 100% on our side and on our team, and really doing a great job in my view, and deserve a thank you now and then, or a way to go, because it's stressful work. They have a lot of distractions through the day, but they work right through them with smiles and get their work done. Going to the committees were, all of them were a pleasure to work with. They communicated with other committees and worked together where they could. They were all self-starters and had a good plan and had goals and got a lot done. And that's very important to make these associations work, for them to be efficient and productive. And they were just that. Well, we're experiencing the 100-year anniversary celebration of the ABBA and the unparalleled success of this breed throughout the world. Really, 100 years isn't that very long when you're talking about a new breed, but we've come a long way in 100 years. I've noticed in the last 10 or 15 years we've made great progress in cattle that consistently reproduce quality cattle. Before that, we were producing great cattle, but in my view, they just didn't have the consistent quality that they needed to really move forward. But that we're there now, and it's in my view, and it's a big victory, because to me that's what stamps a breed that can reproduce. It's good cattle reproduce themselves consistently, and I think we've arrived there. But now we find ourselves under attack. And I think we need all hands on deck to fight and counteract this attack. There's a lot of discrimination and discounts against our breed, and we're not going to make any progress toward offsetting those discounts and discrimination unless we fight back and fight back hard. And I mean all of us as a group. It should be no problem for everyone to get behind giving a good pushback on these market discrepancies. I just want to go over three things that I think we should really look at in the future. We've got opportunities out there to produce a market-branded Brahman beef product, and I think it's very important that we do everything we can to get those things up and moving, because to me there's no better way to counteract those discounts than to prove our worth in the marketplace. And while we're proving that worth, we can collect data and data and data and more data so that we know exactly where we are, and we can prove to the industry that we have cattle that will fit. So the second thing I think we really ought to get on is DNA, accurate weights, accurate birthdays, and all in all, records that are well, I think a lot of us have gotten slack on keeping those meticulous records as we did when I was a young man. So for any of these genomics and all the new things coming along, for that to work for us, we've got to have accurate data, or it's just wasted time. And people like AJ, well, if it's not accurate, I don't think we want it. We have to have numbers that help us with selection and numbers that help us improve this breed. Then thirdly, I'd like to see us make a big push to re-educate. We have a brand new generation out there. It's amazing to me that don't know the advantages of the F1 and all the free things you get with Brahman blood in a herd. And nobody's going to put that message out if we don't do it. And we just assumed that everybody knows that. That's old news. And we've done that, but that's absolutely wrong. There's a lot of people that don't understand those advantages. And it's our responsibility to let them know about it. In fact, Brand Jones has a plan right now that he's written up to target the most prospective part of the U.S. to move in there and educate and let people know what an advantage it is to use a Brahman bull, and see if we can do good in that area. And after that works, move on. But we have to return to doing that kind of work. I think the potential for our breed is endless. Like I said, we're producing consistent, very uniform cattle, and when we move on to genomics and being able to move a little faster with technology, I think we can really get where we need to be in a short time. And so the opportunity is there if we'll all just take it and run with it. But all in all, in my view, the opportunities are there, and they're enormous. Our only limitation is whether we can get together and work together to get these things done, and it all depends on that. So I would ask for your help to unify behind some of these things, and let's get some good things done for this breed. Thank you. Okay, Kelvin, can you give us a treasurer's report, please?
Good morning. Hope everybody enjoyed themselves last night. Feel like we had a great international turnout. I think these have been passed out, the balance sheet and income statement. And I'd like to just go over the balance sheet, give you all an update on that first. And I'll go through it, and then the balance sheet, and then take any questions if y'all have any questions on that. So pretty straightforward on the balance sheet. The top half, the biggest change that you guys are going to notice are everything under that account coded 0120, and all of those that follow down there. And that's all of the ABBA's investments that were in CDs or money market accounts. For many years, the board and the association had decided to put them in different banks, and they all were somewhere around $100,000, and they were spread over about five different banks. And what was happening with this, with all the transition we've had in recent years, those were not being managed properly, so they were being renewed at pretty much almost near to 0% interest rates on auto renewals. And then the other thing that we discovered when this officer team took office was that a lot of those banks didn't even exist anymore. They had been sold out or bought out by other banks. Names have changed. We weren't getting the statements for those. Had some previous staff that were still in those accounts. So the finance committee, the first finance committee voted unanimously to bring all of those under one umbrella and move those funds into Merrill Lynch. So as we go through the balance sheet, you're going to notice all of that money is now performing very, very well for us as an association. All of it was put into Merrill Lynch, into different accounts within Merrill Lynch, and it's performing, some of it's performing as high as 6%. So there's three buckets of those monies, to simplify it for all of you guys. The first bucket is what we call the building fund, which is the original fund that was from the building that ABBA sold. So that is in a year committed type fund, and it's doing really well. The second of those was a money market fund, so those would have been CDs. And the third was money that we had in reserves inside the ABBA that was just sitting in the account for sort of an emergency fund, and it wasn't making us any interest. That money is now also inside Merrill Lynch and producing income. So as you go down here, you're going to see them down below on the bottom of that page in the balance sheet. And you're going to see that in just a short months after we were able to get all the staff and re-access these accounts, the finance committee and the board voted to move them into Merrill Lynch, and now performing well there. So that's those are the main changes you'll see in the first page of the balance sheet. And everything else on the second page is pretty clean. We conducted an audit for the 2023 year, and as part of that audit, the mission and the goal of my committee was to clean up the books. We had a lot of line items that didn't make any sense. So if we're selling ranch signs, let's make sure we know we're selling ranch signs. Let's see how much money we're spending for the ranch signs, how much money we're bringing in for the ranch signs. And then that applied across the board on everything. So part of that tidying up the books has made this balance sheet a lot easier to read. As we get into the P&L or the income statement, you're going to see more of that. But I'll entertain any questions on the balance sheet right now. Okay. Go over to the income statement. This really truly tells the story of what happened in 2023. Throughout the year and when we first took office and had our first board meeting, we realized that a lot of the accounts hadn't been balanced. So our first order of business was, let's balance our books. Let's figure out what truly is inside those accounts. We even had an issue early on, shortly after this leadership team took over, where our accounts got frozen, where we had bank accounts, we were cutting checks that were essentially being bounced. And we discovered that, for one, our staff hadn't had the proper training, and secondly, the current accountant at the time were just doing some old accounting practices that weren't factual, and that just means that we weren't getting the statements. They were being sent to previous EVPs' emails, statements with the change from Houston to College Station. Some of those statements never got moved. So it took a lot of work, and most of that legwork was done by Edie, calling staff members that hadn't been with us for 7 years to try to access some of these accounts or some of these CDs, and changing the addresses so that they would come to College Station, or changing the email, accessing it. It was a tremendous amount of legwork, and Edie really did a lot of that. And we still have one more that we're trying to gain access to that is here in a bank account in Origin Bank here in Houston. And we have to get Dr. Joe Mass to come with Edie and finish accessing that so we can get those statements changed over. So the work is not quite done, but it's been monumental, and I could confidently say and report to you guys today that our books are as clean as we've seen them in a while, and we now know where the money is, and we now know how that money's performing, and it's performing at the highest level that it possibly can. So it was a challenging year for ABBA. There's essentially 3 big buckets of income for the association: registrations, transfers, and DNA. And those are also membership as part of that as well. But if you look at the income statement at the top, we had been trending anywhere between 12% at some portions of the year, all the way on up to 18%. We ended up the year with a 14% decline in registrations. We ended up the year with a 2.3% decline in transfers. And little harder to track, but if you look at the income statement, the way I'm going to ask you guys to look at this is look at the 3 lines that compose DNA. So there's income on DNA in these 3 different lines: DNA parent verification, the 50K, 100K, the horn and polled test. All 3 of those lines make up what the income is. Before, we were putting all the DNA tests into one line, and we really weren't able to tell how much money are we bringing in from each of these tests. So now we've added these so they're specific, and when you look at this income statement, you can tell, okay, this is what we're bringing in each of those. So those 3 lines, if you all remember this number, once we flip the page, it'll make a little bit more sense. We spend $127,000 in DNA testing, which is means that our members are testing and are using those services. So it was a big line item expense for us. Membership renewals and new members was trending somewhere around in the mid-30s to 40s in terms of a decline last year. So like I mentioned earlier, that's one of our big ticket items for income for the association. We ended up the year with a 45% decline in new members and a 27% decline on annual membership dues. Part of that, of course, we know that our membership dues are higher, and the seed stock industry in general, is taking a hit this year. So as we flip the page, you're going to see the accounting of all of those money markets there. So to recuperate all these funds that were spread out through the country in different banks and different things like that, costs us about $7,500 in penalties and withdrawal fees to bring them all together under an umbrella. And I'm happy to report that in just the first month of this money being reinvested in Merrill Lynch, we surpassed that and made it back really quickly. So it was well worth the move. As you could see there, all of those are performing really, really well. I suspect that with a full year of our investment, the way that we've been handling it, once it reaches a full year, we'll be able to, things keep going the way they are, and at the rates that those are locked in now, we'll generate about $60,000 worth of passive income from interest from those investments as they stand today, which is great because look at it this way, it essentially covers one of the salaries in the office just from passive income, not to worry about registration, transfers, things like that. Another line item I'm going to point out, which was a big win for us as an association this year, is the building lease. We were able to negotiate a new rate, and many of you that travel and go to the ABBA office, before we took office, there was a deal where they had two offices across the hall from each other. So the ABBA team was split by a hallway. You had two offices across the way, and the rest of the office, pretty close proximity, but not the same as being in the same roof. So I met with the building owner and was able to not extend the lease. We've got 2 years left on that lease, but renegotiate for a discounted rate. The office was having issues with air conditioning going off, was having issues with leaks. You'd walk in the office and be a bucket there and be a leak coming through the deal. So we told the guy that owned the building, look, we don't want a refund, but we want a cut rate and we want a better office. So they were able to move to a bigger space downstairs. They're now all in one location, and they're also and we're also saving about $700 a month on that lease fee for the office starting this month, right, Edie? So they moved in January. So we have 2 years left in that contract for that lease. Big work this year with, you'll notice an increase on our professional legal line. Constitution Committee did a great job, and they had a lot of good people working on that. So a little bit of that increase in our legal line, it comes from that preparation that they've done to work on the Constitution. So the other line that I want to point out to you guys, 125% increase. It looks big. It's $120,000 that we paid for DNA and services to the companies that do it. So we brought in $127,000. We've paid out $120,000. And part of our goal at the end of the year with the office staff was we made a big push, and the staff was able to do this, to bill out every DNA to make sure that all the transfers and registrations were caught up before they broke for Christmas, to try to help these numbers. And sure enough, they were able to do that because we were lopsided about $70,000 on DNA. And that means that if you submit DNA and it goes to SOEDIS, for example, SOEDIS will send the ABBA office a bill right away. If those DNA results come back to the office and they sit there for 6 months and they're not processed and put into your account at Digital Beef, the member never gets charged. So we're acting as a bank essentially with this money. And it was a huge spread, somewhere around $70,000 before the end of the year. We were backed up with DNA as far back as 8 months. We've now moved Megan in the back into that full-time position, and she did a hell of a job billing out almost 8 months of DNA work in the last 3 weeks of the year to help bridge the gap to make sure that these numbers closed out and we weren't upside down on that. So it was a big push in that department. Also, they before the office closed in December, all transfers and registrations were up to speed. Our goal as officers was to make sure that no one got a bill in January of 2024 for example, a DNA that they submitted in April of the prior year, or transfers that had been submitted, or any kind of work that we needed to bill out was billed out. As you continue on down, you're going to see how the rest of the year looked in all the different events. I'm happy to report that for the first time, the ABBA made a profit from hosting the national show, and it was actually a very very good deal for us, because not only were we able to host the national show, but we were able to raise over $300,000 for the 100-year celebration, which I want to clarify for all of you. 100% of the funds that have been put into the 100-year celebration have been raised by donations and sponsorships. Not a single penny from the general fund has been used for the 100-year anniversary. There's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of rumors, and the 100-year celebration raised the money at the national show with 100% of that sale was donated, and all of those funds were put into its own separate account, and every expense for the 100-year celebration, a budget approved by the Finance Committee and by the board, is what has been executed to date. We also started a new way to have more transparency of our events. So if we hold an F1 sale, if we hold an international sale, if we hold a national show, if we hold anything that revolves around money, it's really hard to figure out how to know if that event generated funds for the ABBA. So each individual event that we've had in this last year, Edie has created a template for a P&L for that event. So we were able to see we lost $17,000 in the international sale last year. By the time the expenses came in, the ABBA charged the commission, there was a deficit of $17,000. We were able to see that the F1 sale actually generated $9,000 because there was a P&L created for that. So every event, and I hope that as we can continue to do more things like that that truly gauge, our bang for our buck. So you'll see all of those in page 5 there of the income statement. Finally, Merrill Lynch or Chilton Investments, those have been doing really well for us. Last year was a tough year for those investments. There was a loss of $145,000. You're going to see on that final page, those are up $103,000. So we're recuperating. Of course, that money is sacred and it just stays in that investment. But we think that we're going to have a good year in that regard as well. I'll entertain any questions on the income statement. Yes, ma'am.
Where it shows income from the sales and stuff, where would the income from the national sale be?
So the income for the national sale will be, because it was 100% raised for the 100th anniversary, it went into the 100th anniversary account. I'll also mention that there was another project that has been very successful for us this year, and that's the 100th anniversary book. I don't know how many of you have gotten to see it. I encourage you to go by the ABBA booth and get one of those books. When the dust settles on that, we'll make over $150,000 for the association just on the book profit. So all of the money raised from that book essentially covered the expenses of creating it and building it. Every single ranch that participated in the book, their brands got redigitized. It's a very uniform. It was a uniform project. The girls, every one of these girls helped scan pictures help find historical things that went into that book. And there's a lot of time that they put in and a lot of effort to make that book happen, because the information was in the office, but getting it digitally scanned to put in the book was a big project. But we've ordered 1,500 books, and we're selling them for $100. At the very least, the association will make $150,000 when that project concludes in sales. What account number is that, Edie?
It's page three, 100-year anniversary income, 412015.
And also remember, Natalie, that these numbers go through December. So if there was an outstanding bill, which we have quite a bit of money outstanding, which means it's been billed out to the person that bought the brand or et cetera, whatever, or bought the heavy, if it hadn't been paid for or the check hadn't cleared by the time they shut the office down in December, those aren't going to be reflected here. They'll reflect in the January books. As when we go into the next board meeting, you'll see that number. So it'll be split between the 2 years, because it shows up in the books when it actually clears the bank or it goes into the bank. So you're going to notice that number is, I think, a little less, 269 or something like that. Is that right, Edie?
Yes.
Any other questions on the income statement? Mr. President, that's my treasurer's report, and I move for its adoption.
Okay, do I hear a second? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Todd, will you come up and recognize our Performance Breeder of the Year, please?
Good morning. I'm here to announce the Performance Breeder of the Year. This year's applicants were incredible. Voting by the Performance Committee involved reviewing the applicants independently, ranking the applicants from 1 to 6, with 1 being their best choice, and then taking those numbers, totaling them up, and then bringing them back to an average, and then picking the winner. The interesting thing about this is 5 of the 6 applicants received at least 1 first-place vote, so really a great group. Okay, currently, this year's winner registered its first Brahman animal in 1949. Currently, the herd consists of 200 mature cows, 64 yearlings, 12 herd sires, and 50 ET recips. Since 2017, they have been exposing their yearling females, and in 2023, 58% calved between 24 and 26 months of age on a 70-day breeding season. The bulls, in order to stay in their program, must pass a fertility test by the time they're 15 months of age. Each year, they evaluate their yearlings with carcass scans, daily gain, feed efficiency, and residual feed intake. The top 15 bulls are then offered at their annual sale. They select ruthlessly for the economically important traits with good feet, udder, calving ease, and good disposition. They currently own 4 of the top 10 gray Brahman trait leaders for birth weight. The breeder, as of 2023, does whole herd reporting to the association. They participated in the Performance Bull program that we had, and had the 4th highest selling animal. They also, for the past 2 years, have hosted the Florida Field Day and Heifer Sale. I could go on, but if you want to see more about the winner, it's a pretty good article in there. Vicki has it in the Brahman Journal. But we'll go ahead and announce this year's winner. The Performance Breeder of the Year is the University of Florida, and its management team of Dr. Resindi, Dr. Makuski, Jesse Savell, Dr. Todd Thrift, Dr. Chad Carr, Marino Villiel, Dr. Peter Hansen, and Danny Driver. Is Jesse here to receive the award? You'll come forward, Jesse. You take a picture?
Yes, sir. Okay, the next thing on the agenda, we need to open nominations for the directors in Area 14.
Mr. President, I move we open nominations for Area 14 directors.
Okay, we've got a motion to open nominations. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Mr. President,
Motion
I move
passes.
we nominate Nando Hawk from Germany and Billy Padilla from the Philippines. They both meet the qualifications for nomination.
Okay, we have a nomination of Nando Hawk from Germany and Billy Padilla from Philippines. Do I hear a second? Second, Carolyn. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Very good, thank you.